My name is Marisa Rainolo Wilkins, and I've written a book about Sicilian cuisine, and it's going to be published by New Holland, and it's called Sicilian Seafood Cooking. I grew up in Trieste, which is in the north of Italy, and we used to visit Sicily all the time. My parents are also Sicilian, so I saw the differences between the two places. For example, the Sicilians, you just need to have a look at their heritage. There have been different trade routes, different invaders who have come throughout their history. You have Carthaginians, you have Normans, you have Phoenicians, you have the Greeks, the Romans, the Spaniards and the French. And that is all evident when you look at the food of Sicily. There's no such thing as Italian food. It really is all regional. And I'm very, very passionate about Sicilian food. Sicilian food is relatively unknown. Every time I've travelled, I've come back really inspired, ready to go. And so this book has been coming for the last 7 years or so. There are many, many people who are now finally discovering Sicily. So my book will also stimulate some travel. But at the same time, there are many people who have travelled, and when they come back, they want to reproduce the food that they have experienced in Sicily. I've collected a lot of recipes over time, and my focus has been fish. But I've also eaten in a number of restaurants, and I've also looked in Italian bookshops. And one of the things I found was that there just aren't enough books for sale that are written in English for all of these travellers who keep on asking for books. I wanted my book to acknowledge the variations of Sicilian cuisine. For example, caponata. If you eat it in Palermo, you will have eggplants. But yet if you eat it in Catania, you have peppers. And if you speak to Sicilians, they all believe that their recipe is the right one, and they will tell you, no, you cannot put peppers. But I wanted to acknowledge that variety.
This one's got half the salt to this.
We're all becoming very conscious about the food that we put into our mouths, that we grow. We don't want to harm the environment, and we want to eat food that is sustainable. And what I've done in my recipe books is that I've recommended a range of fish which is sustainable.
The eggplants are looking really good. At this time of year, they look really great.
At the same time, I wanted to include vegetables as well, because there was no point in giving interesting fish recipes if cooks are just going to present them with boiled vegetables or just salad.
Good Australian garlic, it's terrific.
The other thing is that I've written about pasta, and that includes fish as well. So it's fish recipes using pasta. And the main courses for the fish can also be entrees. I've organised the book quite differently too. I didn't want names of fish, for example, for cooking. What I wanted to do was methods of cooking. So I have things like braising, boiled, stewed, baked. And that's under each one of those cooking methods, I have put a list of recipes with a range of fish. I've organised the vegetables in the same way. Fried vegetables, boiled vegetables, salads. The pasta I have organised differently rather than method of cooking, because you boil the pasta and most of the sauces are cooked in a similar way. Grilled eggplants. What I also wanted to do was to collect quotes from literature, and I've done that. I have quotes from Homer, and I have Dante, and I have Lawrence, and I have Camilleri, who's very, very popular in the Inspector Montalbano series, where they fit. So I've sprinkled those through the recipes. And I also like the little bits of folklore that I've used and the proverbs, and I've used proverbs that mean something next to appropriate recipes. For example, there's one particular proverb that says, don't walk with shoes, only walk with slippers. until you fit into the shoes. And I've added that at the end of making sausages with fish because I thought it was appropriate, because people would look at that and think, oh, maybe I need to do something simpler before I try the sausages.
One of the women in the market had told me that you always pick up eggplants and you look at the bottom. It should be long, because if they're round, they're seedy. And I've always followed that principle.
My book is really well researched. The recipes are really, really well researched. I didn't want it to be just an account of my family's cooking. I wanted to look at their recipe and compare them to what I have eaten in restaurants, what I've eaten on different parts of the island, what I've read about the cooking. Too many times my mother would say things, what would your family say to my father? What would your family know about cooking? You don't do this, you don't put mint in this particular dish, it's oregano that you use. And I wanted to prove that there were other ways of cooking it. And what I really like about my book is that I have put the variations there, and I hope that people who know Sicilian food especially will appreciate that. And the other thing that I've done is that at the end of the book I've come up with menus for special occasions.
Hello, we're here.
And some of the other recipe books that I'd read where you had complete menus, that invited very important people for dinner. Now, I live in this apartment. I do know some important people, but obviously not as important as the people that have gone to restaurants where these restaurateurs have actually written books. So what I've done is I've invited Sicilian writers, Sicilian artists, Sicilian politicians, and planned menus for them, saints, martyrs, and planned particular menus for them. And I'm just going to pull out a few salted anchovies under oil, and just a little bit of lemon juice or vinegar. And that's going to be our sauce. I also have a food blog, and it's amazing just how many comments I get from readers saying, oh, thank you, you're just reminding me of the foods of my childhood. I didn't know you could do that. So there's a wide range of people out there who are really looking forward to the book.